What's up, Squadron? Aviation has given me a ton of amazing experiences.
Good job there. Nice rock, high wing.
But more importantly, it's introduced me to a whole new family of friends.
Dude, you're killing it. You're having a great day.
So just never give up.
Airport, and then, oh, by the way, I got carb ice while I was flying too, so the engine started running rough. And I had to
Join us tonight as we're cleared direct for some hangar flying. I am Bryon Bowman, and this is SuperAero Live.
How's the lot? I've eaten a lot of cookies. What's up, Av Geeks? It's Wednesday, which can only mean one thing. It's time for another episode of SuperAero Live, and I'm super pumped to have a really iconic night with you tonight. I can't believe that came out of my mouth. We're going to have a great show tonight with our guests, but first I got to say hi to some people in the chat. Zach Sherman's here, Waukesha Pilot's here, even though the Bucks game is on. It's a big thing happening with sports ball thing happening in Milwaukee right now. 782 Papa's here, Clayton's here, Hanger Tails is here, Tom, I love the new name. Who else is here? Jonathan's here, Marty's here, Parody Show's here, the core group is all here. Oh, Brian Turner, just plain silly. Wednesday night can only mean one thing, call Child Protective Services because I'm abandoning my family to watch SuperAero Live. I mean, I'll write you a doctor's note, even though I'm not a doctor. Chris M's here, Jason's here, the gang is all here. It's so good to see you guys in the chat. Make sure you go check out last week's episode if you missed it with Jay Stanford, the Stoll pilot. Really excited to see what he's going to be. He's going to be up at Oshkosh in New Holstein coming up. You should go check that out. Check out that episode. And then make sure to make plans for next week. Every week, boom, things are getting exciting around here. The only thing I haven't figured out how to do is broadcast from Oshkosh yet. I got to put some brain power on that. You got some ideas? Throw them in the chat. Also, got to get it out of the way now. Subscribe, share, like, all that stuff. And if you're really into the show and you want to support it, hit up Patreon. The Patreon SuperAero Squadron is in the chat. And we do a little Zoom call afterwards where we all hang out and talk airplanes until like 2 a.m. And my Thursdays are ruined. But anyway, let's introduce our guest. Gary James Knight is here. There he is.
Hey. Oh, my goodness. And you thought I was going to let you live down that whole iconic night comment there, didn't you, Ryan? I know you were hoping I was going to let that go, but I could not. I could not resist myself.
Well, so you're a dad, right?
I am. Father
and
too.
I'm a dad.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's just I couldn't resist the dad joke.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, we do. That's the best thing about being a dad is no one has any expectations on your sense of humor once you cross into fatherhood.
Yeah, I spent this afternoon walking around an Aldi with my daughters, just repeating. It made them laugh. So it's like, why are you screaming so loud? And I said it probably 50 times, and they were just laughing. And you're just committed because if they're laughing, they're not crying. Right? You know.
Yeah, once it works. Oh, well, I mean, my youngest is less than a week old.
What?
She was born on Friday.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Why are you here?
I told you I was busy. Well, technically, I am here. She's just downstairs. If you notice, I have an inflatable mattress up here. That's not for me. That's for my more than kind mother-in-law who came up to look after our 2 going on 3-year-old. Summer's always the busiest time of year for me. I don't know why I'm in this business because summertime is crazy for GA, period. Meanwhile, my birthday's in July, my son's birthday's in July, my wife's birthday is in August, and now my daughter's birthday is in June.
What?
I'm just a glutton for punishment, I guess. So.
Well, I just want to say congratulations and also thank you to your family for letting you take this time tonight to hang out with us. That's so amazing. Yeah, no. And as a father
I
of 2.
appreciate you having me on too, man.
Well, I was gonna say you've switched from now you've left zone defense. If I am using that?
Yeah,
sports analogy?
we had a semblance of control, and now it's
over.
Like the exactly. At some point the youth will outweigh the parents, or right now my wife and I are obviously, it looks like we're in charge, but at some point that is going to happen. God forbid we have a third, and then we're going to be outnumbered.
We capped it at 2, and the last thing I'll say about it before we get to airplanes, the last thing I'll say about it is what happened to us is our house became a wrestling ring, basically. And what happens is my wife and I just like tap out, like we're just like, I'm done, like I need to tap out. And we just like switch.
Can't do it.
We just need a minute.
I hear you.
Everyone in the chat saying
good news is, oh, go ahead. Tell me what the chat's saying. I don't have.
They're just saying congratulations. Just Plain Silly is saying, "Whoa, thanks, this man needs sleep." Yeah, everyone's pumped for you, man.
Well, I appreciate it. And fortunately, I can drink coffee late because it doesn't matter. I'm always tired.
This is the other thing. Whole new level of, like, you really now, once you're a parent, you know what fatigue really is.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There were times in your life before this that you were tired, but you weren't.
Everything is a win. I took last night I had 3.5 hours of sleep in a row, and I could not believe I felt like I had won the lottery. Like, I would actually have right now I would take 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep over a $10,000 winning lottery ticket.
100%. I've got a 3-year-old and a 6-year-old, and I would still probably do that. All right. I want to talk. We could talk parenting, and maybe we'll just keep talking parenting. I'm so pumped for you, man. It's so exciting. We should talk about airplanes, and I was gonna show. Like, you sent me a bunch of pictures. You have not only maybe the coolest name ever, but you also have like one of the coolest jobs. Like, that's you at work.
That I got paid to take that picture. It's weird to say. It's weirder to see. Kind of to backtrack it a little, tell a little backstory. I never thought I was going to be in airplane sales. I never thought I was going to be in sales.
This is what we want to see you. Sorry, go ahead.
Hey, hello, beautiful. And I never thought I was going to be in sales in general. My dad always told me I had a knack for it. And I hated the perception of salesmen. And then I read an article in my freshman year in college, and it was about a guy who had gone to my school and what he was doing now, and he owned an aircraft brokerage. And I said, oh, I mean, if that's what aircraft sales looks like, that's kind of cool. And the next year I went to the job fair, and I got some really bad advice from somebody that essentially told me that aircraft sales is not for me, and I should have kept going and looked for additional or better advice, but instead that I just stuck with one line of thinking, and through just circumstance and experience, I ended up building a resume that positioned me very, very well to be in aircraft sales. And it was actually just very, very mild coincidence that I was selling real estate at the time, and I went to a home inspection for a client, and the home inspector happened to be a pilot, and we had met on Facebook and talked about airplanes a little bit, so it was nice to meet him for the first time face to face. And he tells me, Icon's hiring, and I was living in Florida. I had no idea Icon was even in Florida. And he said, what are they, I said, that sounds cool. What are they looking for? And he said, they wanted flight instructors. And I said, I'm not interested in being a flight instructor. Also, I was just a private pilot, instrument rated at the time. And I was curious enough to go onto the website, and I did notice that they had a sales position open. I hadn't touched my resume in years, and since I had started in real estate about 4 or 5 years sooner, I'd only applied for one other job. And I did my adjustments to my resume, and I sent it in, and I got a call, and I interviewed, and then I interviewed again, and I interviewed again. And then I had a job offer from them, and I didn't know anybody at the company. It wasn't this guy knows somebody, or I call it in a favor or anything like that. It was they picked me for me, which is very gratifying. And now I get to put all the energy I was putting into real estate into airplanes, and that's a whole journey by itself too.
And what's interesting is we've had one other like broker aircraft sales person. Sharon Robb was on the show. She's on the Diamond.
I was talking to her today.
Okay, so you know her. Yeah, so she's on Diamond. She's super, super cool. And we were talking a lot about how the real estate market and the aircraft, like not the actual markets, although I'm sure there's some parallels, but we were talking a lot about the skill set felt very similar to her as well. Like you're dealing with relatively high value items. It's a big decision for folks. And then separately, like in terms of how it functionally works with helping people figure out financing and taxes and all that stuff is like pretty similar. So did you find that career in real estate like armed you really well for this, or was that kind of just a bonus?
I mean, yes and no. I would say I wouldn't be able to do this job without my career in real estate to back me up, for sure. There's no question about it. I think that everybody, first of all, if you already have your pilot's license, I always tell people go ahead and get your real estate license, because that's where I start. I got my pilot license when I was 18, and I found that the real estate license was no more difficult than passing a written exam, like your commercial written. That's literally how hard it was for me to get my real estate license. Now, making money in real estate, very, very different than getting a real estate license. But I encourage every pilot to get their real estate license, because at your worst case scenario is at some point it is going to save you tens of thousands of dollars. That's your worst case scenario on an asset that you're going to get a loan on. Like, can you imagine having to pay interest on a commission for somebody else? Like it's wild if you have the skill set. And most pilots have the ability to get their license. So I encourage them to get their license, because it's going to save you money at some point down the road. Now, for me, what it helped me do is as I was building my real estate business, it helped me to look at the world very, very differently, because being qualified to do something and having the ability to do it are very, very, very different things. Sure. In the pilot world, I think we've all met somebody and said, how in the world did you get your certificate? And, no need to name names, but we've all met those people, and you know what? They might be qualified on
let's
paper.
Name some names. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but I was like, let's go.
No,
maybe
fair,
some people in the chat shaking in their boots right now.
Yeah.
Just kidding. Continue. I
apologize.
I mean,
some days it's me. Some days I wonder, how did I get through what I got through? I could say right now, if I didn't get my instrument rating when I was in my early 20s, I probably wouldn't have been able to do it. I don't know. I have the most respect for people who have a full-time career and do their instrument rating part-time on the side and get it done. I think that's one of the hardest things to do in the world. And so crazy respect. But on the other hand, I've met and flown with some pilots who I don't know how they still have their license. Sometimes I walk away from flying with somebody and I think twice about talking to the FAA about my experience with that person, because my thoughts are they putting someone else's life at risk by flying them? And but the same parallel happens in real estate, where you have people that have their license that are able to sell homes legally and get a commission on it. However, they don't have the skill set to look out for people and make certain that they are avoiding the pitfalls that end up turning into those nightmare stories that you hear about when people are buying homes. And that's really what people are afraid of. They're afraid of jumping into something on the real estate side. They're afraid of jumping into something that they're not prepared for. And you, as a real estate agent, have to get very good at anticipating what people are going to be afraid of, or what people have like these fears in the back of their mind about, and then addressing those fears in a way that makes them comfortable, and then anticipating any problems before they happen, and making certain that you give yourself effectively a buffer so that they know what could happen, and you're protecting yourself first, so that, because if and when something goes wrong, your client that you're working with has some sort of bearing that it could go wrong, and you have a game plan to handle it effectively. But you're also, what you're really doing is you're letting your client know that there's somebody who knows more than they do that's looking out for their best interests. Now, it's one thing to build up that skill set, and you only get that through experience. So it is a lot of chicken and the egg. Like,
Sure.
Do you need the experience, or do you need to be given the experience to gain experience? And it is a little bit of both. I remember I talked to a lady that I had spoken with maybe the first week after I got my license. I met her and her husband, and we were talking about the real estate process and all that. And I never heard from him again after that initial meeting, and I ran into her I want to say maybe 2 years after I was in real estate, at a car dealership of all places, and she told me, "Oh yeah, we didn't use you because you were new," and she was very she was like, "Yeah, we just weren't comfortable going with somebody, but you know what, somebody else was." And then somebody else was comfortable after that, and somebody else was comfortable after that. And before I knew it, I ended up in a place where I was doing, I was doing at 1 to 2 deals a month, completely prospected by myself. I did all the marketing, I did all of the transaction management, I did the accounting, I was the relationship manager, I was the finance manager, making sure that title companies and all that were working all in place. But the ultimately everything ended up falling on me, and some of course some months were better than the others. Some months I had 5 deals closing, some months I had 0 deals closing. But to be able to go from 0 to reliably 2 to 3 deals a month, all by the sweat of my brow, all by going out and finding business and making certain that and finding people who don't know me to get me to do business with them. That was very gratifying, building that skill set. And that's actually, funny enough, when I did my when I did run into that home inspector who told me about the job at Icon, he was inspecting a home for somebody that I had built a relationship from a Facebook ad I ran. So I understood the marketing perspective and how people approach people that they don't know, and how they want to engage with them in new business. And I essentially just brought that perspective into Icon, and I know it's a valuable perspective for a lot of businesses to have somebody that can kind of see like the 10,000 foot view on a sales process. And it's been a lot of fun applying that to Icon.
That's awesome. That's all. And I think, sorry, I'm just laughing because I see Pilot to Pilot is here, and he's saying, do we think Gary can really play those guitars behind him? I'm assuming so. Sorry, they totally...
Justin is trying to incite violence
Yeah, he totally derailed my train of thought. I was with my follow-up question there. That's the problem with the chat, is it always pulls focus. I want to talk a little bit about, so before we dig into icon stuff, just in terms of like a little bit of what you do, I'm curious about, you mentioned you were like private pilot, like what kind of flying were you doing? Because now you're doing a very specific, I mean, obviously you're flying for work, and then the flying that you are selling, right? The type of flying you're selling is very recreational type flying. What kind of flying were you doing before you went to Icon? Is it line up with your interests, or was it a little different than what you were doing before?
Oh, I was just doing whatever flying I could, really. I mean, I got my private, and then I got my instrument rating, and then I started working for the flight school that I got my instrument rating at, and that was just on weekends. And during the week, I was working at I don't know if you know the store that sells the obnoxious jeans, The Buckle. I worked there 5 days a week,
yeah,
and on
you go.
Saturdays, yeah, that's where I got my taste for expensive jeans, I guess. I can't brag about it, but I do have to admit it. So that was how I started. Now, they operated King Air, and they had a guy that owned one of the early Epic LTs that were home built, and so I had a chance to jump on some of the King Air flights and built some time there. And then every once in a while I was able to jump in on the Epic as well, and that was a lot of fun. And then just applying for jobs. Eventually there was something that opened up at a large charter company that owned a fleet of airplanes, and the plan was to just slowly time build as I could, and eventually work as a pilot for that company, or if the opportunity arose, go into the sales side. Now, I had zero sales experience at that point that mattered. I had tried to sell advertising for a website for my school, and I failed miserably at that. Knowing what I know now, I could have done that and crushed it. But I didn't know what I didn't know, like we all suffer from, and
Sure.
I did awful. So I was like, I'm terrible at sales. I'm never going to get a job selling airplane. I can't sell a stupid advertisement on a website. And then I was at the charter company for about a year and a half. It was odd because it took me a year and a half to get the job at the larger charter company, and then it took me after a year and a half of working for them, they went bankrupt. So I didn't want to move from Tampa Bay at the time. I still have some phenomenal friends there, and at the time that was really my core group of support, and I didn't want to leave because it just felt right to stay there. And
Sure.
it's where I met my wife. And so so I decided to stay, and I got my real estate, after maybe 10 days after that company went out of business, I got my real estate license. And the idea was to continue to apply for jobs as I was working in real estate. And I ended up staying in real estate for, I think it was 5 years. I know it's 4 or 5 years. I ended up staying in real estate and building a career out of it, and not really thinking about how it was going to add to my aviation background until I had an opportunity to until the opportunity to sell airplanes kind of came in front of me. And it was literally, I just went on the website and I think it was just, looking to see, it was sheer curiosity, because I just never forget the guy that told me that I had no chance of getting into aircraft sales, and looking at the job and saying, well, why not? And opening the description and saying, are you kidding me? I do that. I do that. I do that. I do that in my sleep. Like, these are all things that I do. this is crazy. Why don't I just apply? And I did, and that was it.
Yeah, I mean, you miss, what's that whole thing? You miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah, and some
Right?
of those
Like-
shots are meant for you, you know.
Yeah. I mean, I applied it was before I got laid off at my old gig. But I applied for a job at Jet Propulsion Labs because they wanted an
Why
announcer
not?
for the Mars landings. And I was like, I guess I didn't mean to wear my NASA shirt and tell the story. I was like, hello, I'll do that. They never got
Well,
back to
no,
me.
JPL's under NASA, so.
It's like, they no, that's what I mean. I didn't mean to like plug it together. But like they never got back to me. I was like pulling college transcripts. They wanted transcripts. They wanted to like see my GPA and stuff. Like it's like totally unrelated, I felt, to the job. And I was like, I don't know, like, wouldn't it be cool to go work for space? Right? Like, wouldn't that be amazing? My wife's like, are we really gonna move to Pasadena? I was like, yes, because space.
Did you really just ask?
Yeah, like, come on, like maybe they'll send me to Mars.
Yeah,
anyway.
exactly. Now we're really dreaming.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
No,
I think I mean that saying especially holds true for sales. You know, I was talking to Sharon earlier today, and we got into this product, specifically the A5. I'll get a little more into that in a moment here, but it is a dramatic departure in a lot of ways from the traditional aircraft experience, and I think it is. Obviously, I sell them. I've been selling them for a while. I'm biased. You know, there are certain things you don't ask me. You know, I was on another podcast, and we'll name names. I was on Justin's podcast.
Boo.
Yeah.
I'm just
exactly.
kidding. I was also
So,
on Justin's podcast, and he's amazing, and I love him so much. So,
and I want to be invited back.
I want to be on again, Justin. You're amazing. I was kidding. It was a joke.
So, dang it! Now I can barely remember what I was about to say.
You were talking about the
we were
product
talking
being
about-
like it's a different product. It's
Yeah.
different from the.
Yeah. So it's different in a lot of ways, and you have to be able to. When I was on Justin's podcast, I was telling him I'm in sales. I'm obviously biased. There are things that you don't ask a salesman. Like it does baffle me when people ask me, you know, like questions that could only be answered in a negative way, you know, or that people expect to be answered in a negative way, you know. So for instance, it's no secret that we as Icon has had some pretty high profile accidents. And I'll take a minute here to say, I have to do this on behalf of Gary James Knight. Like I work for Icon, but I don't represent Icon or their opinions, you know, like these opinions are my own. But I will say that it is one of the questions that does baffle me when people ask me about the accidents that we've had, pilots specifically. The reason it does baffle me is because the NTSB reports are public. And why in the world would you expect to ask a pilot or a salesman a question about an aircraft accident and get an unbiased answer? You know, that question always strikes me a little weird. You know, am I making sense on that?
Yeah.
You know, yeah. So, you know, it is interesting to kind of be able to step back and see that perspective. But also, I think that the things about this aircraft are there's so many things that are understated about the A5. And I'll get into more about like my day-to-day on the job, but I think the easiest way to sum it up is I started flying this airplane almost 3 years ago, and I'm having more fun now than I ever thought I was going to have with the airplane. And the more I fly it, the more I enjoy it. It's a really, really weird thing, because usually when you're overexposed to a product, you kind of lose the fascination of it. And I learned that lesson really, really when I was really, really little. I had a neighbor, and her son was kind of a neighborhood delinquent. He was in his early 20s. I was maybe 7, but he was in his early 20s. He drove a 87 Corvette, and it was pretty messy. Like it needed some TLC. And he worked at Pizza Hut. And of course, 7-year-old me, I'm like, man, Pizza Hut, that's got to be the best job ever. Does he get free pizza? And she goes, yeah, he gets as much free pizza as he wants. I said, that's awesome. When I grow up, I want a job at Pizza Hut. And she tells me, eventually, she says he doesn't like pizza. And I was like, how does he not like pizza? Pizza's the best food on the planet. And she said, well, he used to like pizza, and then after he started working at Pizza Hut, he stopped liking pizza. I said, how? She said, he just had too much of it, and now he's sick of it, doesn't like it anymore. And I remember it was like a 7-year-old that like crushed all, like in a span of 37 seconds, this lady like inspired me and crushed all of my wildest hopes and dreams. And it's a memory it's one of those weird memories that has always stuck with me. I remember standing out in the driveway and she's telling me all this, and I'm realizing that something that matters so much to me in life, pizza, like Pizza 90s deep dish Pizza Hut pizza is different than the deep dish that you'd get today, because they would actually make the dough and put it in that cast iron skillet and all the toppings and the sauce and run it through that pizza oven. And if you ever lived in the 90s, like of the things that 90s people freak out about are different now. Like Taco Bell was better in the 90s. Doritos were better in the 90s. I mean, even Mountain Dew was better in the 90s.
Yeah, it had real sugar in it, maybe still.
Exactly. They probably had carcinogens and Roundup in it for all I know. But it still tasted better. I mean, cereals were better in the 90s. Like Smacks, if you've tried Smacks today, they're trash because they started using the whole grain stuff in them. But 15 years ago, 20 years ago, Smacks was on some stuff. And I'm throwing out the nostalgia now.
I couldn't stop thinking about Pizza Hut with like you get you'd read a book, and then you got the sticker on the button, and you'd go get the free pizza. Anyway,
I got my voucher. Yeah, exactly. I got my voucher, and I'm gonna get my personal pin. Pizza! And but I'll never forget how she she just crushed all my dreams in that moment. But when I was really little, I started noticing by seeing other people that were excited about doing things, and then they do it and they're not excited anymore. And just learning that lesson of when you love something or you love what you do, it's got to be real to you, because if it's not, you're going to base your expectations on something that's external, and reality is going to meet that, and it's going to be different. And now you have to make a decision. And most people, what they do is they blame things that are outside of their control, instead of just acknowledging, what, reality is different than my expectations. It doesn't make reality bad. So I learned to do that pretty young, and I think that helped me a lot, because the A5 is cool, but it's still people that work at Icon. I still work with other human beings. I'm not the only person that makes decisions. I don't always get my way. I don't always feel like I'm treated fairly, but who does? That doesn't make me special. That makes me just like everybody else. So what is in my control is how I respond to that. and whether or not I take those opportunities to try to grow and try to do better. Because the opportunities that you get when the opportunities you get to respond to when you feel like you're being treated unfairly are actually pretty rare. But so you have to learn to be able to take those opportunities and get the most out of them. What's right is not necessarily getting your way, or what's right and what's best for you might not necessarily be getting your way on a thing. It might be using an opportunity of adversity when maybe it's not fair, but you're gonna still find a way to get the most out of that situation. And I went into I'm so grateful that I went into different careers with that mindset, because if I had a deal fall apart in real estate, I instead of being mad at a client and blowing up a relationship, I took those as opportunities to say, like, this is when I'm not just a salesman. This is when I'm gonna be the best version of a human I possibly can be and get the most out of that. And I really think that taking, like, it's easier with one situation, but when you take one situation and you add it to 2 to 3 to 7 to a dozen to 2 dozen, you end up being really, really skilled at a lot of the things that most people don't want to put the effort into. And that bleeds over into how you treat people. It bleeds over into how you treat yourself, bleeds over into how you set your goals, how you treat your spouse, how you treat your kids, and being happy in all of those areas. When you realize that you're so much more in control of how you respond than how you're treated, it allows you to be happy in so many more areas of your life. And the working, I really believe that that's a huge part of how I ended up working for Icon, because my first year in real estate, I made $23,000, and I wasn't happy about that. But I said, you know what? I'm gonna keep doing this. I'm definitely gonna get better. But I'm not going to let this number dictate how happy I am with my life or how good my relationships are. I've got people around me who love me, who care about me, who want to see the best for what I have. My wife believes in me. My family is always supporting me. Those are things that people with all the money in the world can't buy, and I've got those at the gate. All I have to do is just try harder. So
right.
That's, and the same thing in aircraft sales. Most of my job, my day to day, I wake up and I get a list from Salesforce of who I need to call and what I need to call them about. And when I finish that list, as I go through that list, I'm making more tasks for me to follow up with these people. That is 95% of my job, is calling somebody, asking how close they are to buying an airplane, trying to get the truth out of them, and then setting a reminder for me to call them at a future time when either they said they're ready, or if I know I'm going to be in their area and I feel like they're qualified and I want to give them a demo flight. That's 95% of what I do. The other, the fun stuff, the 5% of flying, and even the flying isn't all that. I think, for the product is great. I would love one. I'm one of those crazy enough people that I would actually buy one of these for myself, by myself, if I could afford it. There's no question about it. But the actual flying, with most aircraft sales gigs, the person selling the plane doesn't fly the plane as well. It's very, very rare that you have an overlap. And
just talking about that with Sharon, actually.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so what was your take on her experience there?
Well, she was just saying the same thing. Like I had said to her, like, "Oh, it must be awesome. You're like popping in a plane every day. Like, bango, bango, buy this thing, yeah." And she's like, "Nah, like it's like you don't even really do that." He's like, obviously she's working in ways to include that passion, right, into the into the way she works, but it's not as the grass isn't always as green, right? It's the same thing. Like I work in TV commercials. Same thing. It's like it's not all like, coffees and back rubs or whatever people think. I've never gotten a back rub on set. I don't know why I said that. But
you mean you don't walk in every day and just run into Tom Cruise and have a casual conversation by the water cooler with someone who brings you a sandpel and you talk about the kids and you don't. That's not what your day looks like.
That's not my life. My life is a lot more like yours with Salesforce, but not Salesforce because that's expensive. So it's a spreadsheet. Anyway. So,
yeah, but that doesn't mean it's a down,
right.
Do I fly the airplane? Yes. Is it, do I and I get DMs just like I'm sure you do at this point. People are like, how do you start a podcast? How do you do this, do that? And you're like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, I'm just figuring this out like everybody else. And not in the podcast like related stuff. By the way, your background is hot fire. I'm envious.
All that is that's my. I'm in my basement, man. That's like my workbench.
Don't ruin the magic for me, man.
No, it's just a good camera and some lights. It's just yeah.
I'm quite the fan. That's you've got it set up
off,
pretty well. I like your lighting
on.
as well. Oh snap! Can you change the colors?
I can. That might take a minute. I don't have that set up on like a hotkey. What should we go to? Like, you want it red for icon? Should we do like a red?
Yeah, let's stay on brand and go red here.
All right, we'll see what we can do.
And I'll finish this rant as you're figuring that out. The idea, a lot of people want to get into aircraft sales because they want to fly the planes that they're selling. I tell people that's a terrible idea. That would be like wanting to work at a Ferrari dealership because you want to drive the Ferrari. And the reality is most people don't want to drive the Ferrari. They want to be treated like the person who is in the driver's seat at the Ferrari, dropping it off at valet parking.
That's very poignant.
Ferrari that is Ferrari specific. When you get into like cars like Porsche and McLaren, there's a little bit less of that. There's a little bit less of the pretense, a little bit more appreciation of the product. And that is sort of where the A5 falls in. I will say it is a phenomenal machine. The thing flies exactly as good as it looks. It's a sharp looking airplane and it flies just as good as it looks. It's so stable. As you put more control input into it, it pushes back on you. You need very, very little movement to on the stick to actually be able to get it to move to get it to move in the direction you want it to. She's a perfect lady. And then with the angle of attack gauge, you have an exact readout of your exact margin of error, and it's in the top dead center there of that gauge cluster is that angle of attack indicator. And it is, it's a measure of your margin of error. It's better than having to look at your airspeed, your bank angle, and your vertical speed to figure out how close you are to a stall. Like, you literally have green, yellow, red. How much more easy does it get than that? So especially for forget about new pilots like me. I think I'm coming up on 500 hours now, and I can't believe that it's not the staple for GA to have an angle of attack indicator, because not only are you getting speed factored in there, you have your bank angle and you have your load factor bank all put in there for you. You've got no math to do anymore. It's just a visual readout.
Right.
But and especially in something that flies low and slow, you have an exact margin of error available at your fingertips anytime. And that you can't overstate how much that changes the flying experience. And even if you are your traditional pilot where you're like, I just want a 6-pack and that's all I want, that's fine. But keep in mind, you are going to have to do more work to make a decision without that angle of attack indicator. And that's really what it does. And when I'm 150 feet over the ground and I have literally 0.37 seconds to look inside before what happens outside changes enough that I need to be paying attention there, having something that's going to tell me exactly what I'm doing, exactly when I want to do it, having something that's telling me the exact flight profile or condition of the wing as I'm flying that low, as I'm flying that slow at a moment's notice. You cannot overstate how alleviating that is to the mental workload that you're doing when you're flying an airplane.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I'm just rolling some. This is like a marketing video that you were. And I wonder if I know the guy that shot that for you. I can't remember his name. We were on set.
Mike Studley?
Oh, what was it? Miles something? Miles?
No, Miles did some of our other stuff. But he did more of our original stuff. Now, the guy that filmed this does know Miles. But this was a very different. This was fun. We shot this in 2 days. That's amazing. It was a lot of fun.
No, so Miles and Miles when I were on set together, I was producing and he was the director of photography, and he was wearing an Icon shirt, and I was like, "Hello, you like airplanes? Let's talk." If you don't mind, so as we started to talk about the aircraft more, obviously in the chat people have a bunch of questions for you. I don't know if are you cool with?
Yeah.
Can we dive into some of that stuff while we show some of this
fire away
footage?
Yep.
First of all, Zach Sherman says the visibility looks incredible. Just as a comment, Hanger Tales is wondering about flight checkout program. Do you do that in your job? Are you in your because you had that CFI role that they asked you for? Are you doing more of that checkout stuff too, or is that a different department?
No, I'm actually not a CFI. I don't want to get my CFI.
It was just that they were looking for it.
Yeah, exactly. They were looking for a CFI. I heard that they were looking for a CFI. I was just curious and went on to the website and found a sales position. Anyway,
got it. Okay.
I stay as far away from flight training as I can. I will teach sales. Happy to teach sales, do sales training and things like that. But teaching flying is not even remotely in the passion of my wheelhouse, or is something that I'm passionate about even at all.
Gotcha.
But to answer the question of how people get checked out, that is something that it basically, if when you purchase the plane, Icon effectively goes to you and trains you in your airplane. If you're already a pilot, to be able to develop the water privileges and land on the water, and that's the short answer of it. It's also safety-wise the smartest thing to do, and I can give my own story on that. When I started flight training in this airplane, I did it in Florida, and then they sent me to Texas, and I did a couple flights with an instructor here, and they said, go sell airplanes. And flying in Texas, I didn't know, but flying in Texas is very different than flying in Florida, for a number of reasons. Number one, it's mostly lakes. In Florida, you got a lot of saltwater, intercoastals, different environment, and not just geographically, but also what you're going to deal with and the decisions that you're going to be making as a pilot when you are flying in a big lake with a lot of wake boats is very different than an intercoastal with a lot of center consoles. It's just a different environment, and so the difference in environment is dramatic enough or drastic enough to change the way that you make decisions in the water environment. So as a new owner, one of the worst things, in my opinion, you could do is learn to fly floats in an environment that you're not going to be flying in, because then you're gonna learn this whole set of decision making skills in a place that doesn't really apply to you, and most of it does, but it's the nuance that water flying is stick and rudder. A lot of it is learning correct judgment, and if you do that in an environment that doesn't as much apply to where you're going to be flying, and then you take your airplane and you go into this environment and nobody told you that wake boats can throw out 3-foot waves.
Right.
Oops. Like that can be very bad. And that's one of the things I love about this company is they put their money where their mouth is. When somebody buys this plane, we encourage them to do training in their own backyard, and if they can't make it happen on their own, we make it happen for them, and they're not going to get a bill for it.
That's cool. There you go, Hanger Tales. You should buy. His name's Tom. And Tom he's a seasoned crop duster, and so he's flown just about everything under the sun. So
that's one
trying
of
to
the
convince
other
him to write a
jobs
book.
that I would do.
Some other good, like, kind of technically questions. Someone's wondering about, like, where was it here? Oh, like cockpit room compared to a 172. I think we were looking at this. I'll pull up this little footage, social footage that you sent of
Yeah.
Like, it looks quite roomy. Like, what's the...
Yeah, I
how does
mean,
that compare?
I'll be the first to say it is not the roomiest airplane. It's a light sport aircraft. I mean, I think width-wise, it's 40 something inches. But to give you guys perspective, I'm 6 foot tall, and there's still another 4 or 5 inches between me and the roof. My boss is 6'4". He fits in this plane now, and it is actually very, 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 very well ergonomically designed, because it was a Lotus and a BMW engineer that designed this interior for us. So they know how to take an inch and make it go a mile. One of the comments I hear very, very often when tall people get into this airplane is they say, "Oh, it's roomier than I thought. Oh, it's roomier than I thought." It is small. It's a small plane because it's a light sport aircraft, but it is. I've been in airplanes that are wider and not felt like I've had as much space.
What's the next question here? Oh, like takeoff run distance. Maybe we're talking about Seaplane. 72 Papa's wondering about that, looking at that footage
Yeah.
Because that's the other, I mean, it's funny. Like, I was thinking about, obviously I was excited to talk to you just in terms of, like, your journey to the job. Because to me it seems like, even though we all know, like, we talked a little bit about the challenges of being in sales and how you're not flying it every day or whatever, it still seems kind of like when we watch the fact that this was like you got paid to work on this that day is pretty amazing, right? My experience with Icon was like super lame, but like I was, flight simming, and like Icon was very smart and puts the plane in all the flight sims, and I'm like, I've got all these memories with my buddies like flying virtual Icons around. So I don't know. Anyway, I digress.
The
question from Samuel was takeoff run distance. Sorry, I don't remember why I diverted from the question, but that was his question.
No, fair enough. To answer that, it's going to be about 800 feet on pavement, about 1,100 feet on the water. And then you're going to clear a 50-foot obstacle in about 1,600 feet. If you Google, and I'll put this as a blanket disclaimer. If you Google Icon A5 POH, there's one that comes up right away, and all that technical information's in there. So we can take useful load. I'll give that to you. It's 430 pounds, and you say, "Oh my gosh, what am I going to do with 430 pounds?" And I tell you, this thing burns 4 gallons of fuel an hour. That's how we make it work, because 24. I say take out 12 pounds of that, but every hour I need to fly is 24 pounds. And also, as this video does a very good job of showing, I'm using this, a lot of the points where I'm using this airplane, I'm not actually running the engine. So I can take 7 gallons of fuel, make it last all day, and at the end of the day, whoever I'm with is going to say, when can we do that again? And this, when was the last time that you used 7 gallons of fuel and couldn't wait to do it again?
I mean, I fly a Cessna, so every time, but it's a different thing. Let's see. Natalie's here in the chat. Hey, Natalie. She's talking about anchoring a boat near the Seaplane base at AirVenture. Should totally do that, Natalie. Tom from Hanger Tale says, did you know that you have to pay extra not to get float fittings on a Legend Cub? That's just kind of an interesting... It's kind of interesting if that's... I'm sure that's
I didn't know
true. That. I trust
They
you,
also
Tom.
charge $40 for your headset hooks.
Well, it's very important.
Yeah.
it's
I just feel like I could make a hook out of $40 and put it in.
You take 2 20s and just kind of.
Yeah, exactly.
So talk to me a little bit about. I mean, because we're actually almost out of time, which is remarkable.
That's
but
crazy.
I guess that if you had to kind of sum up for us, in terms of what, because we talked a lot about your path, right? Your path of being a pilot, looking for an aviation job, real estate as kind of a sales passion, but maybe an aviation diversion. Where is Gary James Knight in? Someone wanted me to ask you about if you watch Knight Rider and if you want to be in the sequel to Knight. Anyway,
it was my ringtone for at least 2 years.
Okay, see, it's a good question. No, so the question I'm trying to spit out here is, where's 5 years from now, right? Like you're kind of like, again, like I joke like, oh, that's my dream job, man. Like flying a modern light sport amphibian around and selling and all that stuff. Like that's pretty great. Like what's the next 5 years hold? Where do you take this next?
I mean, that's an interview question I hate.
Well, you don't answer it. Just be like, I'm not answering that.
No. It's not that I hate answering the question. I feel like that's I kind of have to tell a story actually. So when that company that charter company I was working for, went bankrupt and we all got let go. I was applying anywhere I could in aviation, and nobody's really hiring. And I ended up getting a meeting with the manager or one of the managers at Hillsborough County Aviation Authority that runs Tampa International Airport. And I got a meeting with him and the lady that she was the GA manager for the Hillsborough County Aviation Authority, and they run 4 airports: Tampa International, Tampa Exec, Peter O'Knight, and Plant City. And I was just looking to do something in aviation in my backyard, and he asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? Like he did the decent thing, and he effectively gave me an interview, and then he did the right thing, and he basically told me I wasn't up to snuff with them. And and he based that on, he based his opinion on, and I did appreciate his candor. I would have rather him tell me how he really feels than let me walk away thinking that he liked me and never heard from him again. He told me, my answer to him was lackluster, and thinking about it, it was because I had just gone through this part in my life where I thought I had everything figured out, and nothing was working. And I was too, at the time, I was definitely, I was a little twice burned by a lot of things, including the aviation business, to think or to imagine that putting all my eggs in one basket was going to be a good idea. And I feel like that's what a lot of people, I can't speak for people, I can speak for myself. That's what a 5-year plan was to me. It was, I've got to do this. This is the thing that I'm built to do. And if I don't, my life isn't going to matter, or what I do with my career isn't going to matter. And it took me 5 years to get to a place that I had envisioned myself being, and in a matter of months, it all came crashing down. And I didn't have a way to, I couldn't see a way to come back from that. And so, when he asked me, when I was in that moment, and he asked me, where do you see yourself in 5 years? I was just very candid with him. I said, I don't know. And I wasn't as articulate as I am today. If I were to go back and answer, I'd say, hey, listen, I 5 years ago, I thought I had everything figured out. And today I am woefully disappointed with how ill prepared I was to handle the reality that you can plan and do everything perfect and it not work out. That's how I would have answered it, but I just told him I don't know. And then he asked me, he said, what would you do if you could do anything? What would it be? And at the time I was a little interested in engineering, so I said something along those lines. But I probably would have said, if I would have thought about it in the moment, I probably would have said something about aircraft sales. And he ended up encouraging me to go back to school and get a master's degree, and that would have been a huge waste. My experience with school wasn't very good either. So I took what he said with a grain of salt. But now, in 5 years, I don't have a plan. I just know what I'm focused on right now. And it's not that I don't have any aspirations, but I'm so focused on being the best at what I do. A lot of people in sales, especially, we refer to ourselves as coin operated. I would, there's no question I would do what I do for less money. Because I would still do what I would fight tooth and nail. Now, if my boss hears this and say, hey, I heard you do this for less money, I'd say, I was like, you don't want to do that. I promise you, because I make your life a little bit easier than I have to, and you don't want me to not care about that anymore.
I feel like I'm stuck in the middle now. Like I'm in the middle of a
yeah, right, yeah, exactly. Ryan is caught in the crosshairs. No, but seriously, if there was more money in, I am super lucky that sales is something that I enjoy, and it's something where people can make a lot of money in. I am very lucky, but if I was in a less lucrative field, let's say I was in line service or something like that, and I enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed what I do, I would be in line service. Like that's what I do. It wouldn't be a second thought, because I genuinely enjoy what I do. Now, what my motivation at this point is, I look around and I see people that have been doing this for 10, 15 years, 20 years, and looking at what they do, and even people at the company that I'm at now, people who sell more than me, and look at what they do, and I pay attention and I say, you know what, in 5 years, I want to be top dog. I want to be the person that is undeniably the very best at this. And so, if you're focused, if I was focused on the money, I would say like I want to make as much money as I can in aircraft sales. And some people are motivated enough to do that. I know myself that I'm not built like that. And the reason I know it is because I made $23,000 my first year in real estate. If I was coin operated, I wouldn't have done it a second year.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I mean, well,
and that's yeah,
there's
that's my
YouTube,
motivation. Like I really, yeah, right, exactly. I wanna, yeah, exactly. I could always start a podcast. That's easy, right? There's no challenges with starting a podcast.
No,
whatsoever.
it's very lucrative.
Basically, everybody does the work for you, and you never have to worry about anything. You just press a record button, and that's it. That's all there is.
That's it.
And yeah, in I think that in anything that you do, if you're not motivated by the pure act of what you do, you're in trouble. And that's when people send me a DM and say, "Hey," the one that gets me the most is this. They say, "Hey Gary, love your Instagram. By the way, how do I get into aircraft sales? It seems like a really good way to build time to get to the airlines." Ooh, no, 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 no. This is not a good way to build time to get to the airlines. If you don't want to be in aircraft sales, if you want to be in the airlines, focus on getting to the airlines. If you want to be in aircraft sales, focus on getting into aircraft sales. If you want to be in the charter business, focus on being in the charter business. If you want to be in real estate, focus on being in real estate. I was fortunate. I won't say using lucky is a rough word because most people in their late 20s don't know how to be happy and live on $23,000 in a year. But I was focused. I really believed that I could get good at the real estate thing, and I believed that I had something to offer that people couldn't compete with, or that at least I could take enough of the market to be comfortable with. And I did it. And it took a long time to do it. I think that people tend to look at aircraft sales and all they see is the flying, all they see is the people that you meet. They see the ancillary, but the work is the aircraft sales. I'm not being paid to fly airplanes. I'm not being paid to do a video. I'm not being paid to meet people. I'm being paid to sell airplanes. And that is what motivates me is every day I'm looking for somebody. I'm not looking for somebody to convince to buy an airplane. I'm looking for someone who's already convinced and either needs permission to do this themselves, or they need education, or they need help. Whatever they need, they're already convinced, but whatever they need, that's my job. And that's where I wake up and I say, okay, who needs education or help or permission today? Because that's who I'm here for. That's it.
And then all that other stuff, it comes back to the part I enjoy. I do a lot of, I wear a lot of hats, but a large part of my job, especially as a new small business owner, is sales. And the part of it that I love, and the reason why I'm taking that part of lead in my company to be more of the aggressive salesperson, or make that more of my focus, is the relationship building, right? Think about the parts of the job that fill your cup up, right? That stuff, what you're saying resonates there, right? It's in the end, right, you're about selling. Someone, I don't know if you want to answer this, someone asked, how many have you sold? Can you say that? Would you say that? Or is that top secret?
It's funny. I can say I average a sale every 2 or 3 months, and I'm working to get that up to. Now I just started as a sales director in November of 2019.
Oh,
so
the before times.
We all know this was literally 2 months before the pandemic shutdown happened. and I had to figure out how to sell airplanes in the middle of a worldwide shutdown, and I did it. So I've averaged about one every 2 or 3 months. That's how I started, and then I'm pretty close to one a month right now. My goal is to get to two a month. If I can get to two a month, that's
Yeah.
that's my goal right now, and I know the activity I have to keep up in order to do it. And that's where I'm at.
I mean, I don't know. That's interesting. That's an interesting question. A follow-up question, and then we got to play a game because we're over time. And we got to play a game, and you need to get some sleep, Dad. You need to get some sleep.
What's sleep? This sleep thing. Let me Google it. What is sleep?
Parody Show had, first of all, said they were a big fan of the video you did, and we can use this as a little shout out section. You've got a YouTube channel where you go in depth on some stuff, and the Parody Show says, love your video about the 11 underrated details of the icon. So that's something to go, after people watch tonight, they can go to your channel and check that out. Also asked, so then, because of the popularity of the aircraft, and this is true of, we're seeing this across the aircraft industry right now. Like, I was just talking to Greg at Van's Aircraft. There's a recent press release there. Like, they're up 250% at Van's Aircraft with kit sales. I'm sure you guys are facing similar, like, volume. Parody Show's question was, you have a waiting list. Like, how does that affect you as a salesperson? Does that something you have to, like, navigate at all?
Yeah, I mean, especially with this product, this is a product everyone wants right now. There's somebody that can afford it. Once they've made the decision, I want one, they want one tomorrow. And I have to tell somebody they got to wait 6 months right now. Actually, yeah, 6 months, almost 7 months. As of this morning, I think I've got one more availability for November, and then we're going to be sold out through December, which is, for a new aircraft manufacturer, kind of crazy. It's exciting, but also that for me, that's where I'm not going to give away all my secrets, because I just don't want to.
You're not going to give away all your secrets at almost 11 o'clock at night?
Yeah, but I can say this is where I am. This is where I shine more than most people that do what I do. When I see an obstacle, I can get very creative in the moment and figure out a way around it. So somebody wants an airplane right now, I've got a solution for that. And the thing with this product is, and I have no problem saying this, and I know Icon doesn't have a problem with me saying this either. This is my opinion. I'll put that blanket statement on there. But nobody needs an A5. Like, nobody needs this product. This is an airplane that doesn't go very far, it doesn't go very fast, and it doesn't carry very much. But that being said, year after year, we sell more than the people who we compete with, other light sport amphibious aircraft, and we're more than twice the price. And the reason for that is because it is a superior product. It delivers a superior experience. And at the end of the day, this is the closest thing on the market that reminds you why you started flying and what you thought flying was going to be when you were 9 years old. In that moment where I was asking my neighbor, why does your son hate working at Pizza Hut? This product, in relation to flying, it's the only thing that I've experienced that meets every single expectation of what I thought flying was going to be. And part of it is because of how well it looks, how the extensive ability of our service network and our flight training network. The fact that if you call all the people who we compete with and you say, hey, I want to buy your airplane, but I need a demo flight, we're the only ones that as a factory can get to you and execute the demo. everybody else, you got to go to them. And so it's that level of service plus the experience that the product itself delivers. I can leverage that and capitalize on the desire and find a solution that makes sense for the buyer. And that's what I do. That's what makes me good. Now, in order to be the best, I have to just make sure that I do that more than everybody else.
Yeah. One last question. We're going to play a game and wrap it up because I want to make sure we don't go too far over time. I don't know if James is joking. I guess if it's a seaplane, he's saying, does it come with a paddle?
I mean, it can. If you're telling me you're going to buy one and all you need is a paddle, I'll throw in a paddle. But there is actually a collapsible paddle that you can buy on Amazon. It's literally about this big, folded up, but it extends to, I think, 3.5 feet, 4 feet, and it's actually it's more effective than I thought it was going to be when I had to use it. So
I'm guessing James has flown in seaplanes before and needed one, is why he's thinking about it. Anyway, we should play a game before I let you go. It's a game. Are you up for it? A short little game?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Game's called
I don't
Short
think the conversations really start until you get through the first hour anyway.
That's right. We're just getting warmed up now. So, game's called Short Final. And for folks who are watching for the first time, Short Final is just a minute on the clock. I'm just going to spout a bunch of random questions at Mr. Gary James Knight. And he's going to give me some short answers, and we'll just see where we end up. You can't lose. You've already won.
Okay.
So there's no pressure.
Then I'll take the deal. I'll take the deal.
Right. That's another kind of like 90s throwback, isn't it?
Yeah, it was more mid 2000s, but I mean nobody knew who Howie Mandel was until Deal or No Deal.
We had that weird animated show. Wasn't he a cartoon?
That was even before. That was before my. Oh yeah, he was on Cartoon Network for something, right? He had like it was an adult animated show or something like that. Yeah, it was weird.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, he's a comedian, so he's got to be a weird guy.
Absolutely. All right. Well, we'll have him on. Is he a pilot? We should have him on the show.
No, actually, the flight school that I started that aviation gig at, we chartered him one time into Clearwater.
Was he cool?
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't do the flight. I just felt like name dropping that experience.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. All right, here we go. Here comes Short Final. All right, we're gonna throw some music on. Ooh, very dramatic. All right, here goes the clock. Mr. Gary James Knight. I don't know why I keep calling you that. Full name, I don't know why. Let's start with the hardest one. Track up or north up on your GPS?
I have no idea what that means.
That's because you fly.
North up.
North up. All right. What about favorite airport you've ever landed at?
Albert Whitted.
Oh, I've been there. That's a great airport. What about favorite passenger?
Me.
Very good. All right. What about favorite warbird? Do you have a favorite warbird?
P-38.
Ooh, we're bros now. I love it. Oh, I didn't even see it back there. Okay. Other than the icon, which obviously you're contractually obligated to say, another, like your other favorite civilian aircraft, if you could have one.
It's still the icon. It is. Like, it's still the icon. I hate to say it, but I hate to be cheesy, but it's still it.
Can I believe that, though?
I mean, probably not. I mean, that's up to your discretion, but no, in all seriousness, if you gave me a huge pile of cash so you could buy one airplane, you got to fly it for the rest of your life. With the rest of the cash, you can do whatever you want. I'd buy an A5 and charter everywhere else.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, the one thing I'll say, and I mean, I'm not a journalist. I'm not trying to be like super impartial or anything. But the thing that appeals to me about the icon is the same thing that appeals to me about like a J3. It's not about
Yeah.
where you are headed. It's about how you got there. And you just have
Right.
the added
Yeah.
benefit of being able to like get wet.
Yeah, you're landing on the water, and also I think for me for always being such a nerd on airplanes, and now all the people that were like, Gary, you love airplanes way too much. They're all of those people want to fly the A5 now, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
And now it's like, aha, the nerd has the leverage. Yes, my precious. That's and and then you follow that up with a phenomenal flying experience, and I mean I don't want anything more. Like I don't want to fly a real plane like anymore. If I'm flying in a jet, I want to be in the back. I don't want to be in the front anymore. I'm just not. I used to. I absolutely used to. And then I got a taste of this kind of flying. I would rather fly a J3 than fly a Phenom 300.
Yeah, me too, I think. I mean, I'd like to do the Phenom once. You know, like, it's just going to knock stuff off.
Like, yeah, let's see.
What's
Let's
this
see.
about?
Can I land this thing?
Yeah, what's it like? Tell me about what it's about. But in the end, right, for me, like the fantasy of flying is that bird thing, right? It's that, like, when you were a kid and you dreamt about it, like, how close is it to that? And even, I think, sometimes even in like a 172, it's not at all what you dreamt it would be. It's like this other also awesome thing, but it's different. And so that, I think, like the J3s or the Icons or whatever, that other aircraft that are in that kind of like light sport segment, many of them kind of feel like they fulfill that mission. So anyway,
it's definitely not about it's definitely not about being light sport, and I'm not saying I'm not putting words in your mouth either. Like that's not what I took away from what you said. But it is about delivering, what delivers the most pure experience, and
right,
and that's what I want to fly. And and in my experience, don't get me wrong, like I've got a buddy who's got a RV8. I love that airplane. I've got another guy that I know that owns a Citabria that he said anytime you want to get your tail wheel endorsement, just give me a call. And I say sure, I'm happy. Let's go. And they're all fun airplanes, but there is something super special about the A5, where especially if I have it on the trailer and I'm driving it somewhere and I pull into a gas station and 5 people come up to me like, what is that thing? And if I'm feeling really snarky, I'll say like, it's a time machine, and just see what reactions I get out of people. But
classic.
when you tell them it's an airplane and they're like, that's an airplane? And I said, yeah, and it lands on the water. And they say, lands on the water? That's crazy. And then, there's a funny video on my Instagram that I actually caught somebody at a stoplight that says, what is that? And I go, it's an airplane. He goes, for real? And I go, yeah, it lands on the water. And he goes, what the And then he just lost his mind for a half a second. And this is the only thing that I've been around that does that to people. And Elon Musk, when he was on Joe Rogan's podcast, he said, when you build something that people love, you've done something really, something that matters. And that's how I feel about this airplane. So it's as cheesy as it sounds. Yeah, like you give me a buttload of cash, I'm still buying an A5. And if I had a different answer to that question, I would be trying to find a way to sell that instead.
That's a good, that makes sense. I mean, you gotta believe in it, right? It's hard to sell a thing you don't believe in.
Yeah, because I didn't need this job financially. and I can real estate isn't going anywhere. I can go back at any moment, and the market doesn't scare me because I started in real estate in 2011. So, this.
Yeah.
I say bring on the bubble. I know what to do. It's not a scary prospect to me to look at the real estate market at the bottom because that's where I started. But and like I said, I had only applied for one other job before I applied for Icon in a span of almost 5 years. So I'm only here because I believe in this product and I believe in this company and I believe in what this product does and I believe in what it represents. And I have no what's it called a delusion about Icon's brand positioning within the industry. We know inside that we've got a lot of work to do to get people to understand that we're not the same company that we were 5 years ago. We did a lot of stuff that was flash in the pan, a lot of crazy marketing videos. We did a lot of stuff that let people believe that we were just gung-ho, do what we want, middle fingers to everybody, and we're just going to do whatever we want. And that's not at all the culture. But the people that matter to the most are the people that are buying. And, that's why we build more airplanes year to year than Sea Ray or Super Patrol or C-Max in our respective markets. And that's without even focusing on international. And, it's incredibly gratifying to be part of that and to know that, hey, I contributed to that. And to look at the potential within myself and to say, I know I can do better. I know I can do more. Let's see how far this rabbit hole goes. So to kind of answer your question from before, where do I see myself in 5 years? Maybe in 5 years, I have a more keyed in idea of exactly how deep that rabbit hole goes. And that and maybe I've at that point done what I believe I can do, and I'm on to something else, or maybe I found something I love more, and I'm there, and I'm either selling that or helping to develop that company.
That's a great answer. I like that. Yeah, because you don't know. I don't know. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
When I answered that question, I was like, that's a kind of a crap question to ask, Ryan. Hold on to your butt. All right. We're gonna wrap it up, dude.
I know what you're getting into with that.
No, it's you
I
answered
get paid
it.
to talk for a living, so this is
Me
this
too.
Is
No, this is good, man. You answered it really well. It's just as an interviewer, I was like, is that really good? But whatever. I want to thank you so much for being on tonight, man. It has been so good to get to know you. I hope we can get together sometime and we can talk about P-38s because
oh yeah,
being from Wisconsin, we've got a World War II ace, Bong. We got the Bong Recreation Area, and all the kids thought it was where you go to smoke weed, but it's actually named after the guy who flew the P-38.
Yeah, Richard.
Yeah, exactly. You've done your research.
Nobody's business.
Yeah, that guy was something else.
Man,
that's a whole other podcast. No, we're never gonna get out of here. It's a whole other podcast. You need to go to bed. You've got a newborn.
Yeah. If you guys see me, I'll be at Osh every single day. Okay. If you're watching this and you see me there, feel free to stop by the Icon tent, say hello, and if you want to hang out, let me know what's going on. I'll be more than happy to show up wherever after hours.
Dude, I will definitely be up there for at least a couple days, so I will make sure to come say hi, and we'll chop it up some more.
Sounds good, Ryan. It was really, really, really fun meeting you. I'll be more than happy to come back on your show anytime, and if I start a show, I would love to have you on as well.
Dude, let's do it. I will. You can tell me about what I'm gonna do in 5 years. I'm gonna be like, I don't know, panic.
We'll call it. I don't even know what to call my show. I was gonna call it Pilot Life, and then I realized my life is so much more than just being a pilot. That's like a line item on a resume. It's not what's most important to me, which is, it's scary to say. I know I can hear the hate mail coming in already, but it's a fun business. I love it, but
you have kids, man. No, it's like everything totally changes.
Man, dude, we're just gonna and part 2 of SuperAero Live on this Thursday evening.
Yeah, no.
Right,
well, anyway, I will come see you. I meant you have kids like I didn't mean you have to hang up. I meant you have kids like. No, of course, it's not of course, everything shifts, right? Like your entire belief. Even my belief structure, everything I thought I knew, different how I thought about things. I don't know about you.
Really?
I cry a lot more now. Like I just cry a lot. It's just it's what happens.
I didn't cry when my son was born, but I definitely cried when my daughter was born. Like I could not believe like the tears that were coming, and I couldn't believe that the nurses were so nice. Like they didn't say anything. They didn't make fun of me at all. They're like, oh, she's 7 pounds, 3 ounces. I'm like, she's so beautiful.
Yeah, right? Yeah. Dude.
And, 100%. And they're telling me stuff. I'm like, oh, God.
Yeah, man.
It was a mess. And they didn't say a thing, but bless their hearts. I don't know if it's a Texas thing or whatever, but they were so nice about my complete lack of tact, and I it's weird. I actually enjoy being able to express that kind of emotion. I've never felt like I never had somebody breathing down my neck, like be a man or anything like that. But I definitely, when I was younger, would compress as much emotion as I could and not express it. But now I'm like, whatever. If I want to cry, I'm a grown man. I'm gonna cry.
Yeah, that's the final lesson. Gary James Knight and Bryon Dembroski say, men, cry. Just get it out. Just cry. You'll feel better.
If you want to, you're a grown man. If you want to cry, cry. Who cares?
Yeah, you can cry if you want to. Yeah. Who's gonna stop you? Someone says you can't cry,
cry. Then
punch him in the face like a man.
Exactly. Yeah. If you don't cry, I'm taking away your man card.
Oh my God. This has been so fun. All right.
This is falling apart now.
No, it's totally but it's the best. This is the best. All right. I'm going to wrap it. Thank you so much for being on the show. Everyone in the chat, thank you guys and gals for being in the chat and asking questions. If you're coming to Osh, let me know in the chat if you're coming to Oshkosh. We're gonna do a SuperAero meetup. Obviously, if you're coming to Oshkosh, go say hi to the Icon folks. And if anyone buys an Icon after watching this podcast, you should tell them that I'm the reason why. So that
and you should come to me and buy it.
No, yeah, you should come to Gary James, but tell him like I saw you on Ryan's show. Maybe he'll like send me like a hat or something as a finder's gift.
I'll send you a thank you note written on a napkin from Cracker Barrel.
That means more. That would mean more to me. All right, everybody. We're gonna sign off, but we'll see you guys next week. Fly safe. We'll see you soon.
See you guys.